My friends, there comes a sacred moment in every life when the voice of God cuts through the noise and shakes the core of your understanding. And today that same voice speaks with clarity and power. God says, stop looking for a job, not because He wants you to stay still, nor because He desires for you to drift without purpose, but because He is summoning you to something greater, a divine mission, a higher calling, a life sustained not by the systems of man, but by the abundance of God. This word is not for the comfortable, it's for the weary ones, the ones who are tired of chasing doors that refuse to open, exhausted from waiting for chances that were never meant for them. It's for those who have reached the end of their striving and are ready to finally listen to heaven's direction. There are many right now moving from job to job, company to company, applying, hoping, praying, yet meeting rejection after rejection. They feel unseen. They feel unworthy. They feel small. But God whispers, I never created you to be employed by man. I created you to be deployed by me. There is a divine difference between employment and deployment. Employment ties you to the systems of this world. Deployment connects you to the purpose of heaven. Employment can be taken from you with one signature, but deployment is sealed by the hand of God. When God deploys you, no boss can fire you, no economy can block you, and no rejection can define you. Some of you have been praying, God, please give me a job. But heaven has been waiting for you to change your prayer to God, show me my purpose. Because a job gives you income, but purpose gives you provision. A job gives you salary, but purpose releases destiny. God never said you were born to look for a job. He said you were created to bring light, to carry power, to manifest His wisdom in the earth. When God created the birds, He didn't give them a job, He gave them flight. When God created the fish, He didn't give them employment. He gave them water to dominate. And when God created you, He didn't give you an office. He gave you a calling. You were not made to live under the control of men, but under the guidance of God. Listen closely. There are moments when God shuts doors that look like opportunities because He wants to redirect you toward divine assignments. You think the rejection letter was failure, but God says it was protection. You think losing that interview was the end, but God says it was the beginning of something only He can open. Sometimes God says don't look for a job because He wants you to stop chasing titles and start discovering purpose. The system of man will tell you find a career. But God says, find your calling. The world says, get busy. God says, be still and listen. The world says, hustle. God says, trust me. When God tells you not to look for a job, He's not telling you to be lazy. He's telling you to shift your focus. He's calling you out of man-made systems into divine provision. He's saying, stop begging for tables where I never wanted you to sit. Stop applying for positions that don't match your anointing. Stop reducing yourself to survive when I called you to lead. You see, the reason you feel frustrated in certain environments is because you were never designed to fit there. The reason your spirit feels restless working under certain people is because your soul knows you're not called to serve their vision. You're called to fulfill God's call. That's why you can't sleep at night. That's why you feel something stirring within. It's God saying, I have more for you. The truth is, many people are trapped in jobs they hate because they've confused income with destiny. But let me tell you, just because something pays you doesn't mean it fulfills you. Just because something looks stable doesn't mean it's spiritual. Some of the greatest prisons are built out of paychecks. You can have a salary and still be starving spiritually. You can have benefits and still be broken inside. But when God becomes your source, you move beyond the limits of me. You stop waiting for the world to validate you, because heaven has already approved you. There's a reason God led you into seasons of waiting, because He was training your dependence. If He gave you the job you wanted too soon, you would have thought man was your provider. But God is teaching you to trust Him in the wilderness before He sends you into the promised land. He's showing you that your survival is not connected to a paycheck, but to His promise. God said, "Don't look for a job, look for me, seek me, and I will show you the work you were born to do." You see, when God becomes your employer, your assignments change. You don't work for applause. You work for purpose. You don't chase promotions. You chase obedience. You don't count hours. You count impact. The reward may not come on the 30th of every month, but it will come in due time, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. When you serve God's purpose, He becomes your paymaster, and He never delays the rewards of the faithful. Look back through history. Every person who walked with God had to walk away from something comfortable. Abraham left his father's house. Moses left Pharaoh's palace. Joseph left prison to run a nation. And they all had one thing in common. They didn't have a job. They had a calling. God doesn't call you to security. He calls you to destiny. He doesn't call you to be comfortable. He calls you to be impactful. When He says, "Don't look for a job," He's saying, stop living by sight and start walking by faith. Because faith is the only currency heaven recognizes. Sometimes God will dry up every opportunity so that you have no choice but to depend on Him. You'll send out hundreds of applications and hear nothing because God wants you to apply for His assignment, not man's employment. He's trying to awaken something greater within you. The builder, the creator, the leader, the giver, the voice. You were not made to just survive in someone else's system. You were created to build systems that glorify God. You carry an idea, a vision, a gift, a message that this world needs. But as long as you're busy searching for a job, you'll never have time to search for the seed of greatness inside you. God doesn't want you to look for a job. He wants you to look inward to the treasure He already placed within. Inside you is the skill that can feed nations. Inside you is the wisdom that can create opportunities. Inside you is the faith that can open doors no man can shut. But the problem is many people bury their gifts while begging for wages. They pray for open doors, but ignore the open heavens. They seek employment when God has already released empowerment. My friend, you don't need to be hired to be useful. You don't need an office to have authority. You don't need a title to make an impact. What you need is alignment with God's will. Because when you walk in alignment, doors open by themselves. People begin to notice your light. Resources start chasing you. Favor follows you like a shadow. You don't chase blessings. Blessings chase you. When you walk with God, you become the opportunity others are looking for. Think about it. God fed Elijah through ravens, not through a company. God sustained Israel with manna, not with salaries. God provided water from a rock, not from a system. When He says, don't look for a job, He's reminding you that He can use anything, anyone, any moment to sustain you. You are not limited by the economy. You are governed by heaven's economy. God is not waiting for inflation to drop to bless you. He's not waiting for a job market to improve, to lift you. He can bless you in famine, promote you in obscurity, and elevate you when the world least expects it. But you must dare to believe. You must stop seeing yourself as a beggar and start seeing yourself as a carrier of divine purpose. You must stop looking down and start looking up. Because when God is your source, you never run dry. Even when others panic, you'll have peace. Even when others lose, you'll increase. Even when others fight for positions, you'll rest in provision. God is not telling you to stop working. He's telling you to start walking, walking by faith, walking in purpose, walking in obedience. There are moments when you will have to choose between comfort and calling. God will ask you to step away from what seems secure so He can lead you into what is supernatural. You might have to let go of that job, that plan, that structure, because God is about to build something new through you. You might feel afraid, but remember, when God is your employer, every day becomes an opportunity to serve eternity. You might not get a human paycheck, but you will receive divine provision. You might not clock in and out, but you will walk in power and peace. And to the one listening who says, "But I need money to survive," God says, "I am your provider." He clothed the lilies, He feeds the birds, and He will not forget you. God's provision doesn't come through man's permission. He will raise up strangers to help you. He will send resources from unexpected places. He will open doors that no human could plan. That's why He's saying, don't look for a job, look for me. Because when you find Him, everything else will follow. Some of you are sitting on ideas that could transform your lives, but fear has kept you tied to smallness. God is saying, stop looking for employment and start building what I showed you in secret. Maybe He told you to start that business, to write that book, to speak that message, to plant that seed, but you ignored it because you thought, I need a job first. No, you need obedience first. The provision is already tied to the instruction. God never funds confusion. He funds calling. The moment you move in obedience, doors will appear where there were walls. There is someone right now listening who has been wondering why nothing seems to work, why every door keeps closing, why every interview ends in silence. It's because you are applying for a life God never designed for you. You are trying to fit into a system God is trying to pull you out of. Stop forcing what God is freeing you from. Stop fighting to be accepted by people God is separating you from. Stop chasing what's beneath your calling. God is saying, if you stop looking for a job, I will show you your assignment. Do you understand what happens when you surrender your plans to God? He multiplies what you surrender. When you let go of your idea of success, He replaces it with significance. When you stop chasing provision, He brings it to you. He said, "Seek first my kingdom, and all these things shall be added unto you." That means if you get the order right, God first, everything else follows. But if you chase everything else first, you'll keep running forever. The reason many people never experience true peace is because they are serving the wrong master. They're loyal to corporations, but disloyal to their Creator. They wake up early for work, but never wake up early for prayer. They give their best energy to companies that would replace them in a day, but give their leftover time to God who sustains them daily. And yet they wonder why life feels empty. God is saying, stop serving man as your master. Let me be your source again. When God says, don't look for a job, He's not denying your need. He's redefining your source. He's saying you don't need to look for survival. You need to look for purpose. Because where there is purpose, there is provision. He will never send you into a place He has not already supplied. You will not need to beg. You will need to believe. You will not need to compete. You will need to cooperate with His plan. Every delay, every rejection, every disappointment is a sign that God is redirecting you towards something eternal. When God said, "Don't look for a job," He wasn't rejecting work. He was redefining how you see work. He was saying work for purpose, not for payment. Work for impact, not for image. Because when you work for purpose, you cannot fail. When you work for impact, your rewards outlive you. The world teaches you to chase positions, but God teaches you to chase purpose. The world teaches you to depend on bosses, but God teaches you to depend on His power. The world says, "Get hired." God says, "Get assigned." Every time you run after approval from people, you step away from alignment with God. And alignment with God is where the oil flows. The oil of wisdom, the oil of creativity, the oil of prosperity that doesn't dry up and drop. Listen, there are some people who think success means working under bright lights in tall buildings, wearing fancy clothes, answering to important names. But God can raise you higher from the dust than the world can from a desk. He can take you from hidden places and cause kings to seek your counsel. He can make your gifts so visible that the same people who once ignored you will one day honor you. You don't need to chase visibility when God Himself becomes your voice. You don't need to chase validation when heaven already recognizes your name. When God is your source, He builds platforms that man cannot remove. You may start small, but nothing stays small in the hands of God. Some of you are in a season where everything seems uncertain. No job, no income, no direction. But that's not punishment. It's preparation. God often strips away human support so you can finally realize who your true provider is. He brings you to a place where your only option is faith, because that's where miracles are born. That's where you stop living by sight and start living by trust. That's where you say, "God, I don't see the way, but I know you are the way." And in that place, the impossible becomes normal. God never asks you to stop looking for a job to leave you empty. He asks so He can fill you with something greater: purpose, vision, divine creativity, and unstoppable faith. You see, work was never the problem. The problem is when work replaces worship. The problem is when you put more faith in your paycheck than in your prayer life. The problem is when you believe your employer more than your Creator. God is saying, "I want your heart before I give you the harvest. I want your trust before I give you the treasure." And that's why He says, don't look for a job. Because He doesn't want your focus divided. He wants your dependence undivided. He doesn't want you chasing the fruit and forgetting the root. He is the root. Every good thing grows from Him. There are divine seasons when God will call you to step out from everything familiar. He will remove the safety nets, the backup plans, the predictable paths, not to harm you, but to strengthen you. Because faith only grows when comfort dies. The more you cling to man-made security, the less room you leave for God's miracles. So He breaks the routine. He interrupts the plan. He closes the door you thought was yours. And in that confusion, He whispers, "Trust me." Because when your plan fails, His plan begins. When God says, "Don't look for a job," He is telling you to stop running in circles of desperation and start walking in circles of revelation. He's saying, stop asking for doors and start creating them. You carry something divine, a gift, a vision, an idea, and until you activate it, you'll feel restless. The frustration you feel right now is not a curse. It's a signal. It's God stirring the seed of purpose inside you. It's the discomfort of destiny pushing you to rise. You can't sleep peacefully because your spirit knows you were made for more than a paycheck. You were made to represent God's glory in your generation. And hear me? There are people around you who won't understand this. They'll say, "Why don't you just get a job like everyone else?" They'll think you're wasting time being unrealistic. But you're not disobedient. You're divinely led. You're not lazy. You're being prepared. When God separates you from the crowd, it's because He's setting you apart for something sacred. Ordinary minds will never understand extraordinary callings. So don't expect people to applaud what God hasn't revealed to them. Keep your focus. Stay in prayer. Let your silence be your discipline and your faith be your proof. Many of you are waiting for a door to open, but the truth is God is waiting for you to move. He already placed the key inside you. You're not waiting for opportunity. Opportunity is waiting for your obedience. You're not waiting for favor. Favor is waiting for your movement. The moment you decide to act on what God placed within, heaven will align everything around you. Resources will appear. Helpers will arise. Time will bend. Everything you need will be drawn to you because obedience magnetizes provision. Never overlook the strength hidden in small beginnings. God reminds us, do not despise the day of small things. It means that even if all you have is faith, it's already enough. Even if your hands hold nothing, your heart carries the seeds of divine greatness. Begin right where you are, using what's already within your reach. When you act on what's in your hand, God responds by releasing what's in His. He doesn't bless daydreams. He blesses movement. Faith that stands still makes noise. Faith that steps forward makes impact. There's something holy about letting go. When you stop mapping every outcome and start trusting every step, God begins to move in ways that leave you speechless. He opens one door only to reveal another beyond it. He aligns you with people you never imagined meeting. He transforms closed chapters into living testimonies. That is the beauty of walking with the unseen hand of God. He never forgets the ones who depend on Him completely. He never leaves the ones who choose obedience over logic. Some of you are afraid of stepping out because you fear failure. But what if I told you failure in God's eyes is not falling? It's refusing to move. Failure is not trying something and losing. Failure is hearing God's call and ignoring it. God doesn't expect perfection. He expects faith. And faith means moving even when the path isn't clear. It means trusting that if God told you to stop looking for a job, He already prepared something that fits your hands perfectly. It means believing that your future is already finished in His design. When you stop chasing jobs and start chasing God's will, you enter a new rhythm, the rhythm of divine timing. You'll begin to notice how things align without effort. You'll meet the right people at the right time. You'll hear a voice in your spirit saying, "This is the way." You'll see signs confirming you're on the right path. That's the beauty of divine direction. It requires less striving and more listening. You stop running after life and life begins to run after you. Let me tell you something powerful. When God gives you an assignment, it comes with its own economy. That means whatever God asks you to do, He has already provided for it. If He calls you to start something, the resources are already waiting. If He tells you to build something, the hands to help you are already in motion. You won't have to force it. You'll just flow with it. That's how you know it's from God. It grows naturally, peacefully, and powerfully. Sometimes you'll walk through seasons that make no sense. The money won't add up, the path won't be clear, and people won't support you. But that's where God proves himself most faithful. He provides in the dark what he promised in the light. He multiplies what others overlook. He hides treasures in your trials. And when it's all done, you'll realize why he said, don't look for a job. Because what he had for you was not employment. It was empowerment. Not a paycheck, but purpose. Not survival, but significance. Some of you have been praying for change, but God is waiting for your courage. He's waiting for you to stop asking how and start saying yes. Because when your yes is genuine, God's power is immediate. He doesn't move when you understand. He moves when you obey. Understanding comes after obedience. Miracles come after movement. Breakthroughs come after surrender. And in that surrender, you'll find peace that this world can never give. God doesn't want you tied to systems that can control you. He wants you free spiritually, mentally, and financially. He wants you to reach a point where no man can threaten your peace, where no job can dictate your joy, where no employer can hold your destiny hostage. That's what he's doing when he says, don't look for a job. He's breaking the chains of dependence on men so he can establish your dependence on him alone. Remember this, every time God takes something from your hands, it's because he's about to fill them with something better. Don't mourn over what's gone. Celebrate what's coming. Don't cry over closed doors. Rejoice over divine direction. What's ahead is greater than what's behind. What's unseen is stronger than what's visible. What's being prepared is bigger than what's been postponed. Trust the hand that wrote your destiny before you were even born. You were not created to live like everyone else. You were created to live by faith, guided by purpose, powered by God. You were not designed to chase jobs. You were designed to create impact. You were not made to blend in. You were made to stand out. That's why God is calling you out of comfort zones, out of fear, out of small thinking. He's saying, rise because I placed greatness inside you. Stop looking for work when I already placed my work in your spirit. The time has come for you to shift from employee mentality to divine stewardship. You don't need an organization to authorize your assignment. You don't need a boss to validate your calling. You already have the highest endorsement, God's. When he calls you, he equips you. When he equips you, he sustains you. And when he sustains you, no system on earth can stop you. You are walking proof that God can take the unseen and make it unstoppable. When God says, don't look for a job, he is not dismissing your effort. He is redirecting your energy. He is saying, stop searching for man's system to sustain you and start seeking my system to position you. God never intended for his children to be dependent on human approval or worldly provision. He designed you to operate under divine guidance fueled by faith, not fear. When you work under man, you receive wages, but when you work under God, you receive wonders. That is why some of you feel uncomfortable in certain places, because your spirit knows it wasn't built to beg. It was built to build. You are not called to be a follower of trends, but a founder of divine transformation. When God places a vision inside you, he also places the power to bring it to life. You might not see the full picture, but every step you take in faith is forming it. God doesn't show you the entire road. He gives you enough light for the next step. Why? Because he wants you to rely on him daily. If he revealed everything at once, you would no longer need faith. But God thrives in the unknown. He works in silence. He molds you when no one is watching. That's why he says, don't look for a job, because while you're searching for an occupation, he's forming your transformation. He's preparing you for something that can't be measured in hours or salaries, but in impact, legacy, and eternal value. Many people wake up every day to chase survival, but God is calling you to chase significance. The difference between the two is purpose. Survival says, what can I get? Purpose says, what can I give? Survival works for money. Purpose works for meaning. And God never designed His people to live a life of endless labor without fulfillment. He wants you to wake up every morning knowing that your work matters to eternity. When He says, don't look for a job, He's saying, stop trying to fit into man's mold when I've already made you in my image. You carry divine creativity, divine intelligence, divine ability. Everything you need to fulfill your purpose is already within you. There are seasons when God will remove all external supports just to prove that He alone is enough. You might lose people, opportunities, and connections, but what you'll gain is divine dependence. You'll begin to realize that even if the world closes its doors, God's hand remains open. When one source dries up, another one flows. When one system fails, God creates a new one. The same power that commands the winds and parts the seas is guiding your life. You are never without direction. You are simply in transition. So when God says don't look for a job, He's saying don't panic in the in-between. Trust the process, because where there seems to be nothing, I am already doing something. You see, God doesn't call you to rely on sight. He calls you to rely on spirit. The moment you start living by what you see, fear takes over. But the moment you start living by what you believe, peace takes over. You can't walk in divine purpose while fearing lack. You can't hear God's direction while worrying about man's rejection. When your heart is anchored in God, you stop chasing temporary positions and start walking in permanent purpose. God's plans don't expire. His calling doesn't depend on a company or a contract. His promise stands regardless of your status. That's why you must never allow your current condition to define your destiny. You may not have a job, but you have something greater: God's favor, God's word, God's plan. And hear this truth: every delay is divine strategy. When nothing seems to be moving, God is rearranging everything behind the scenes. He's not ignoring your prayers. He's answering them in ways you can't yet see. He's not holding back blessings. He's positioning you to handle them. If He gave you everything too soon, it would crush you. So He says, wait, not because He's punishing you, but because He's protecting you. He's strengthening your faith so that when the blessing comes, you won't bow to it. You'll use it for His glory. That's the heart of divine preparation. You may be thinking, but how will I survive? God says, I am your survival. You may ask, who will help me? God says, I am your helper. You may say, where will I go? God says, I have already gone before you. When you put God first, every uncertainty becomes an opportunity for His power to manifest. The same God who fed the hungry with manna, who brought water from a dry rock, who sustained prophets in the wilderness, that same God is still working today. He doesn't need a system to sustain you. He doesn't need an economy to bless you. He is the source, not a supplement. When God tells you not to look for a job, He's actually telling you to discover your gift. Because your gift is the channel through which He releases your provision. The world might give you positions, but only God gives you purpose. And purpose never runs out. The gift He placed in you was not meant to be hidden in fear or buried under the opinions of others and need. It was meant to shine. It was meant to create change. You don't need to look for permission to use it. God already gave you authority. Stop asking men to validate what God has already confirmed. There are people who spend years chasing what they think is stability, only to wake up one day realizing they traded their destiny for comfort. Don't let that be you. God didn't call you to live a predictable life. He called you to live a purposeful one. Predictability belongs to systems. Miracles belong to God. If you want to see His power, you must step into uncertainty. You must dare to trust Him beyond logic, because faith is not safe. It's sacred. It takes courage to step away from the known and walk into the unseen. But when you do, you'll find out that the unseen is where God does His best work. Stop fearing the unknown. It's where God hides His greatest treasures. Stop fearing silence. It's where God speaks the loudest. Stop fearing emptiness. It's where God fills you. Every time you think you've lost something, God is making space for something better. Every time you think you've been set back, God is setting you up. Your life is not random. It's divinely arranged. Every delay has meaning. Every detour has purpose. Every disappointment has divine design. God wastes nothing. You may think you're unemployed, but you're actually in training. You may think you're lost, but you're being led. You may think you've been forgotten, but heaven is preparing your moment. There is a reason God told you not to look for a job, because He doesn't want you to miss His voice while chasing man's offer. He's calling you to build, to write, to lead, to serve in ways that glorify Him directly. What's coming for you doesn't require an application. It requires alignment. When you walk with God, you realize that every step is sacred. Even the still moments carry purpose. The waiting seasons are not wasted seasons. The unseen growth is still growth. God measures progress differently than the world. The world counts results. God counts obedience. The world values speed. God values surrender. The world celebrates titles. God celebrates trust. That's why He sometimes withholds opportunities not to punish you, but to protect your purity of purpose. Because what He's building in you must be stronger than what He's giving to you. God's way of promoting you doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes promotion looks like obscurity. Sometimes it looks like starting from scratch. Sometimes it looks like losing everything only to realize that you've gained what truly matters. Dependence on God. The less you depend on people, the more you discover the abundance of His presence. That's where peace flows from. That's where purpose awakens. That's where provision multiplies. Let me remind you, when you depend on God, you never truly lack. Even in your lowest moment, you are still rich in potential. Even when the account is empty, your spirit is full of ideas. Even when the door's closed, heaven is still open. That is why you cannot give up now. You cannot settle for ordinary when you serve an extraordinary God. You cannot lower your dreams to fit human understanding. The very fact that you are alive means God is not finished with you. He still has chapters to write, blessings to release, people to reach through you. So when God says don't look for a job, He's not saying do nothing. He's saying do what I placed in you. If you can cook, start feeding others with excellence. If you can teach, start teaching truth. If you can build, build with purpose. If you can write, let your words carry power. If you can speak, let your voice bring healing. Whatever is in your hands, use it. Because when you use it for God, He multiplies it. When you move in faith, He moves in favor. You don't need to wait for the perfect time. The time is now. God is calling you to operate as a vessel of His abundance. He's saying, stop waiting to be chosen by man. I already chose you. You were chosen before you were even aware of your potential. You were set apart for something sacred. The world may not see it yet, but heaven already knows it. Every hidden seed will bloom in divine timing. Every silent effort will echo in eternity. Every act of faith will bear fruit in due season. So, my friend, lift your head. Do not bow to fear. Do not settle for what's safe. Do not chase temporary comfort. When you walk with God, you are never empty-handed. He will provide streams in the desert, favor in the famine, and light in the darkness. Your job may end, but your purpose will not. Your income may change, but your source remains the same. When you finally understand that, peace will replace panic, and confidence will replace confusion. You'll walk not as one who's looking for something to do, but as one who's already carrying something to deliver. Because God did not send you into this world to fill a position. He sent you to fulfill a purpose. And until that purpose is complete, nothing can stop you. Not delay, not rejection, not uncertainty. Every path that looks blocked is only a bend in God's design. Every no from man is a yes from heaven in disguise. God's word over your life is final. No rejection letter, no job loss, no missed opportunity can erase what He has written. So don't look for a job, look for God's hand. Don't seek employment, seek empowerment. Don't chase provision, chase purpose. Because when you seek God first, everything else will follow. Your life is not about earning, it's about expressing. It's not about status, it's about service. And it's not about being known by the world, it's about being used by God. So stop begging for the crumbs of this world when God has already written your name on a divine inheritance. Stop chasing what is fading and start building what is eternal. You are not meant to be a servant of men. You are meant to be a servant of God. You were not designed to live by salary. You were called to live by assignment. The moment you align with the voice of God, your provision will chase you. Your favor will follow you. Your peace will surround you. The same God who fed the birds without them clocking in to work, the same God who clothed the flowers without them spinning or toiling, is the same God who will provide for you when you obey His voice and walk by faith, not by sight. Do not look for a job. Look for the reason you were born. Look for that spark in your soul that God planted before you even took your first breath. God is saying, you are not an employee. You are an ambassador of my will on earth. Wherever you go, carry that identity. Speak with that authority. Live with that conviction. When you wake up each morning, don't ask, where will I work? Ask God, how will you work through me today? Because when God begins to work through you, doors that never existed will appear. Opportunities that were impossible will manifest. People will be drawn to your light, not because of who you are, but because of who sent you. So as you leave this moment, my friend, hold this truth close to your heart. When God said, don't chase a job, He wasn't closing a door, He was opening your eyes to seek Him first. He was inviting you to rise in faith, to think beyond limits, to trust beyond logic. He was showing you that your purpose doesn't live in titles or offices, but in His presence. Stay steady. Stay surrendered. Stay strong. Because when you walk with God, rejection becomes redirection. Every closed door becomes a bridge to something better. Every delay becomes divine strategy. Lift your spirit high because God Himself is your provider. His promise is your paycheck. His will is your assignment. His glory is your reward. Step forward with courage into what He has already prepared for you. The world may not see it, systems may not approve it, but heaven has already confirmed it. God has declared it. And when God declares, it stands forever. There come seasons in life when it feels as though heaven has fallen silent. You've prayed with faith, waited with hope, believed with all your heart, and yet nothing seems to shift. The months turn into years. Doors stay closed. Opportunities slip through your fingers. You've wept until your strength ran dry, wondering if God still sees you at all. But listen closely. Silence from God is not separation from God. A delay from heaven is not a denial from heaven. When God seems quiet, it isn't neglect, it's preparation. He is crafting something so extraordinary it will leave you speechless. His timing is never hurried, never missed, and never mistaken. It is perfectly stitched into the divine pattern of your purpose. Sometimes God waits until every other option around you has failed, so that when He moves, there will be no confusion about who deserves the glory. You see, if things happened when you wanted them to, you might have thought it was your skill, your plan, or your wisdom that made it work. But when God waits until it's impossible, until it looks hopeless, until your back is against the wall, when He finally moves, it will be undeniable that it was God and God alone who brought the breakthrough. There's a reason some doors have stayed closed. There's a reason some relationships ended. There's a reason your plans didn't unfold the way you imagined. God was protecting you from things you couldn't see. He was holding you back from paths that would have destroyed you. You thought the delay was punishment, but it was preparation. You thought the silence meant abandonment, but it was divine positioning. God has been shaping your heart in the waiting, refining your character, strengthening your faith, and teaching you to depend not on your own strength, but on His perfect will. And when God finally decides that it's time, nothing and no one will be able to stop what He has ordained. The same people who doubted you will have to watch as God lifts you up. The same doors that were once locked will swing wide open. The very situation that brought you pain will become the very stage upon which God displays His power. When His timing arrives, it won't just be a small blessing. It will be a flood of favor, a breakthrough so powerful that it will move you to tears. You'll weep not because of sorrow, but because of awe. You'll cry not because of pain, but because of overwhelming gratitude. Some of you have been walking through a dark season. You've been carrying heavy burdens, waiting for answers that never seem to come. You've asked God, when will things change? When will my prayer be answered? When will I see the fruit of all this waiting? But what you didn't realize is that while you were waiting on God, God was working on you. Every tear you shed, every moment you wanted to give up, He saw it. He counted them and He used them. God has been writing a story far greater than what you could imagine. And when it unfolds, you'll look back and say, now I understand why I had to wait. When God's timing arrives, it often comes suddenly. One day it seems like nothing is happening, and the next everything shifts. That's how God works. He prepares in silence and moves in power. Just like the seed hidden beneath the soil, unseen for months, growing roots before it breaks through the surface. Your life is in that hidden stage. Right now the growth is happening underground where no one can see it. But soon the world will see what God has been cultivating in private. And when that moment comes, it will be too big to contain. God's timing is about to make you cry. not from heartbreak, but from the overwhelming realization that He never forgot you. You will cry because you'll realize He was always on time. Every delay had a purpose. Every disappointment was a setup for something greater. Every closed door was redirecting you to the right one. You will cry because you'll finally understand that what looked like loss was actually love. God's love keeping you from settling for less than what He had planned. Some of you are on the edge of that divine timing right now. You can feel something shifting even if you can't see it yet. Doors are aligning. Opportunities are being prepared. Hearts are being moved. God is setting the stage for a miracle that will make sense of everything you've endured. That pain wasn't wasted. That waiting wasn't for nothing. Every lonely night, every unanswered prayer, every moment of confusion, it was all building toward the moment God steps in and says, "Now." And when that now comes, you won't have to fight for it. You won't have to chase it. The blessing will find you. The right people will appear. The resources will flow. The peace will return. And you will stand there trembling not from fear, but from holy awe, realizing that what you prayed for has finally arrived. Not in your time, but in God's perfect time. God's timing is powerful because it's purposeful. He doesn't do random. He doesn't do accidents. He orchestrates moments with precision. When you thought He was late, He was actually right on schedule. The breakthrough He's bringing isn't just about blessing you. It's about revealing His power to everyone who thought you were finished. God is about to prove that His promises do not expire no matter how long it takes. There are seasons in your life when God will not give you what you asked for right away. Not because He is ignoring you, but because He is strengthening what He placed inside you. When God delays something, He is not punishing you. He is preparing you. Waiting is not wasted when it is in the hands of God. While you wait, He is building endurance, patience, and spiritual maturity inside of you. You may think the delay is keeping you from destiny, but in truth, the delay is shaping your destiny. God does not rush the process because He knows that premature blessings can become burdens. He waits until you are ready emotionally, mentally, and spiritually to carry what He has planned for your life. When God makes you wait, He is protecting you from things that would have broken you if they came too early. He is allowing time to reveal who is truly for you and who is only near you for what you can give. Waiting seasons are not silent, they are sacred. It is in the waiting that God refines your motives, purifies your intentions, and draws your heart closer to His will. Some blessings require a version of you that doesn't exist yet. So God delays not to frustrate you, but to transform you. He's not withholding something from you. He's developing something within you. There are people who gave up too soon, who walked away just before God was about to move. They allowed discouragement to blind them to divine timing. But if you can hold on, if you can stand still and trust that God's hand is still working, you will see what they never did. You will witness the moment when everything turns around in your favor. God's timing often looks like chaos before it reveals order. It feels like confusion before it manifests clarity. But that is how He operates. He uses what looks impossible to display His power. And when God finally decides to open the door, no one can shut it. When He declares that it's time, every obstacle that stood in your way will bow before His command. You don't need to force what God has already destined. You don't need to beg for what God has already planned. When it's time, it will happen naturally. People will come into your life by divine appointment. Opportunities will align without your striving. Circumstances will shift effortlessly because the same God who holds time also holds your future. There is beauty in surrendering to God's timing. When you release your need to control the outcome, you allow God to surprise you. You begin to see that His way was always higher, His plan always wiser. You stop questioning the why and start trusting the when. Faith is not proven when everything goes your way. It's proven when nothing does and you still believe that God is good. That's when heaven takes notice. When you lift your hands, not because the blessing has arrived, but because you trust the one who controls the blessing. Some of you have been faithful in obscurity. You've served when no one was watching. You've prayed when no one was listening. You've held on when others gave up. God saw it all, and in due time, He will honor it. The same hands that felt empty will overflow. The same heart that felt broken will be healed. The same path that felt blocked will open wide with favor. God's timing will come like the morning sun, suddenly, beautifully, undeniably. When God's timing manifests, it often carries a sense of divine irony. The very thing that once caused your tears will become the reason for your joy. The same people who walked away will witness the glory of God in your life. The same circumstances that tried to bury you will become the soil in which your blessings grow. That's how God works. He takes what was meant to harm you and turns it into the very thing that elevates you. His timing exposes the truth that He was never late, that He was never silent, that He was never distant. And when that moment arrives, when the breakthrough unfolds right before your eyes, you will feel something shift deep in your soul. The weight of years of waiting will meet the lightness of divine fulfillment. You'll realize that God didn't just answer your prayer, He exceeded it. He gave you more than you asked for because He knew what you truly needed. He replaced what you lost with something far greater. He restored not only what was taken, but also what time had stolen. Do not despise the waiting. The same hands that delay are the hands that will deliver. God does not forget the cries of His people. He does not overlook the faithful heart. There is a moment already written in your story when everything will make sense, when the pain will reveal its purpose, when the closed door will show why it had to stay shut, when the tears will become testimonies. That moment is approaching. It's closer than you think. God's timing is about to make you cry because you will finally see how every thread of pain was woven into a tapestry of purpose. You will cry because you'll understand that every season of loneliness was training you for strength. You will cry because the things you thought were lost were actually being preserved for the right time. You will cry because the silence you feared was actually God's whisper saying, "Trust me, I am not done." There is power in divine patience. When you choose to trust rather than rush, when you choose to believe rather than doubt, you align yourself with heaven's rhythm. And in that rhythm, everything flows with perfection. The same God who sets the sun to rise at its appointed time knows the exact moment when your blessing will appear. You cannot speed it up, but you can prepare for it. You can live in readiness, not in frustration, because when it happens, it will be bigger, greater, and more glorious than you ever imagined. God's timing doesn't always come with warning. It shows up like a sudden rain after a long drought. It floods your life with joy so overwhelming that your heart can't contain it. You'll find yourself in tears, not because you are broken, but because you are finally whole. The years of waiting will collapse into a single moment of divine fulfillment. And you'll realize it was worth it. Every delay, every disappointment, every unanswered prayer, it was all worth it. There are times when God hides your blessing, not to deny it from you, but to protect it until you are ready to receive it. God knows the dangers of giving something too soon. He knows that premature success can destroy what patience was meant to build. He knows that certain blessings, if given before your heart is steady, can become idols instead of instruments of purpose. That's why He delays not to deprive you, but to safeguard your destiny. You see, God is not only preparing the blessing for you, He is preparing you for the blessing. You may be wondering why it seems others are advancing while you are stuck. You see them succeeding, achieving, prospering, while your path feels slow, uncertain, and lonely. But remember, comparison is the enemy of faith. What God is doing in your life is tailor-made. Your story is not meant to mirror anyone else's journey. What takes someone 5 years may take you 10. But when it happens, yours will be built on divine stability, not human speed. God takes His time because He builds to last. He doesn't rush what He intends to preserve. Some blessings are being protected by time itself. If God gave you what you asked for too soon, the wrong people would have access to it. They would misuse it, manipulate it, and drain it before you could enjoy it. So God covers your blessing in divine delay. He hides it in the shadows until He has cleared your surroundings of those who were never meant to go where you are going. Sometimes God has to remove people, shut doors, and create distance before He releases what you've been praying for. And though that separation hurts, it is necessary for your protection. When God is about to move, He begins by rearranging your environment. You may lose people. You may be misunderstood. You may even find yourself standing alone. But isolation is not abandonment. It is preparation. The wilderness always comes before the promise. The silence always comes before the sound of victory. God isolates before He elevates. He separates before He blesses. Because not everyone can handle the weight of what He is about to release into your life. And when His timing comes, it won't just elevate you. It will vindicate you. Those who mocked you will have to watch as God honors you. Those who doubted you will have to witness His favor shining upon your life. The same lips that spoke against you will be silenced by the evidence of His hand upon you. God's timing carries vindication. It doesn't just bless you. It corrects the false stories told about you. It proves that the same God who was silent was also working. That the same God who seemed distant was designing your rise in secret. When God's timing breaks forth, it will feel like every weight you carried suddenly falls off. You'll look back and realize that the pain was never punishment. It was preparation. You'll see that the rejection you faced was redirection toward your divine place of purpose. You'll understand that the nights you cried were watering the soil of the very ground from which your miracle would grow. God wastes nothing. Not even your tears. Every drop has been accounted for. Every moment has been measured. And every second of your waiting has been recorded in His plan. And when that time comes, you won't have to force recognition. God Himself will announce you. He will cause favor to locate you in places you never expected. He will make your name known in rooms you've never entered. He will make people remember you who once overlooked you. That is what divine timing does. It reverses what was forgotten and restores what was delayed. What seemed like wasted years will suddenly align into purpose-filled moments. What looked like failure will transform into a foundation for your next season. You will cry not because of sadness, but because you will finally see how God orchestrated everything perfectly. You will cry when you realize that the timing you once hated was actually the greatest expression of divine mercy. God was saving you from battles you didn't see, from people you didn't know, from pain you weren't strong enough to handle. He was delaying your blessing because He was strengthening your spirit. He was holding back the answer because he wanted to make sure that when it came, you could sustain it. There is something sacred about divine timing. It humbles the proud and exalts the faithful. Those who boast in their own strength fall quickly, but those who trust in God's timing rise unshakably. God allows delays to separate faith from impatience, trust from fear, belief from doubt. The waiting season reveals what words cannot. It shows whether your faith is built on circumstances or conviction. And when you choose to stand firm, even when the answer hasn't come, that's when heaven takes notice. That's when God says, "Now I can trust this one with more." You see, faith that only believes when things are easy isn't faith at all. It's convenience. But faith that endures through silence, through disappointment, through years of uncertainty, that's faith that moves the hand of God. God's timing is not earned by effort. It's revealed through endurance. It's not found in rushing. It's born in resting. The moment you stop striving and start surrendering, you position yourself to receive what only divine timing can deliver. There comes a moment in every believer's life when all the waiting, all the pain, all the confusion suddenly makes sense. It doesn't arrive with warning or announcement. It comes like a wind that shifts the entire atmosphere. One day you wake up and something inside you knows the season has changed. The burden feels lighter. The air feels different. And your spirit whispers, God is moving. What once felt still begins to stir. What once seemed dead begins to breathe again. That's the mystery of divine timing. When it happens suddenly. And when it happens, it changes everything. You may have thought God forgot you, but He was only setting the stage. Every delay was a divine arrangement. Every disappointment a redirection. Every heartbreak a foundation for your rise. The moment His timing unfolds, all the hidden pieces align like a puzzle finally complete. You'll see that what you called loss was actually protection. What you called waiting was training. And what you called silence was God's strategy. When His plan manifests, it comes with such perfection that you will know only God could have done this. There is a beauty in how God fulfills His promises. He doesn't just give you what you asked for, He multiplies it. He restores what you lost and adds what you never expected. His timing doesn't come to simply balance the scales, it comes to overflow them. The same tears that once fell in sorrow will return in joy. The same eyes that looked up in desperation will gaze upward in gratitude. You will cry not from pain, but from the realization that God never left you for a single moment. His silence was not distance. It was discipline. His delay was not punishment. It was positioning. When God declares that it's your appointed moment, everything that once stood against you will start to align in your favor. Those who tried to hinder your path will unknowingly become the ones who help advance it. The doors that once closed with frustration will guide you to the one that opens with ease. You won't need to chase. You'll simply walk into it. You won't need to prove your worth. God Himself will reveal it for all to see. That is the beauty of divine timing. It replaces striving with flow, pressure with peace, and uncertainty with divine assurance. Many of you are standing right at that threshold, between waiting and fulfillment. You can sense the atmosphere shifting, even if your eyes can't yet see it. Do not lose faith now, because what's coming next will move you to tears. Not tears of pain, but tears born from awe, when you finally see the goodness of God surrounding your life. Tears that fall because you realize every delay, every detour, every storm had a divine purpose. Every delay had a purpose, and every lonely night was part of the plan. Those tears are holy. They are the language of a heart that has seen God's faithfulness after the fire. God's timing will humble you. It will remind you how limited your understanding was. You will look back at the moments you doubted, the times you complained, and the nights you questioned His plan, and you'll feel both awe and repentance. You'll say, "God, now I understand why you made me wait." You'll see that if you had gotten what you wanted when you wanted it, it would have destroyed you. But because God loved you too much to give it early, you now stand ready to carry what He is releasing. And when the breakthrough comes, it will not come quietly. It will come with power. It will come with acceleration. What took years to build will suddenly fall into place. What seemed impossible will happen overnight. When it's God's time, He compresses what man calls time into moments. He redeems lost years in seconds. He restores lost opportunities in ways that defy human logic. You won't be able to explain it. You'll only be able to weep and whisper, "God, this is more than I imagined." God's timing does not need human permission. It doesn't require validation, approval, or acceptance. When God says now, no force in existence can say no. Not time, not circumstance, not people, not opposition. His word overrides every barrier. His decree dismantles every delay. His will moves through walls, through systems, through impossible situations, and turns them into open paths. And when He moves, He does it so completely that even your enemies will have to admit, surely this was the hand of God. The moment His timing manifests, you'll understand that the waiting was the most sacred part of your story, because it was in that waiting that you learned trust. It was in that silence that your faith matured. It was in that delay that your spirit grew strong. You will look back and thank God not only for the breakthrough, but for the process that made you ready for it. The pain you endured will no longer sting. It will shine because you'll realize it was the pressure that produced your power. And when that divine timing arrives, something extraordinary happens to the heart. Gratitude overwhelms every other emotion. Words fall short. You no longer care about who doubted you, who walked away, or who didn't believe. Your focus shifts completely to the one who carried you through it all. You'll realize that it was never about the blessing itself. It was about the bond that was built between you and God during the wait. Because once you've seen how faithfully He moves, you'll never question His timing again. There is a certain stillness that comes when God's timing arrives. It's not loud, it's not chaotic, it's peaceful, deeply peaceful. It's the calm that follows a storm, the light that floods after the darkness, the assurance that says it was all worth it. That peace is proof that you are standing in the will of God. You don't have to force anything. You simply flow with what He's doing. And as you stand there overwhelmed with tears, you will finally understand that every unanswered prayer, every long delay, and every closed door was a part of a divine rhythm, a rhythm that leads you straight into the perfect timing of God. When God's timing finally collides with your life, you begin to understand that He was never just arranging events. He was transforming you. The waiting was not merely about receiving something. It was about becoming someone. You see, before God gives you the blessing, He molds your heart to handle it. He removes pride, builds humility, deepens your discernment, and teaches you to depend on Him completely. Because when the blessing comes, it should not draw you away from God. It should draw you closer to Him. That's why He waits until your spirit is anchored before He releases what your heart has been crying for. God's timing doesn't only change your situation, it changes your perspective. You begin to see life differently. You start recognizing that every delay, every disappointment, every closed door was God teaching you that His plan is greater than your own understanding. You stop fighting the process and start flowing with His will. You begin to rest in His wisdom, trusting that He knows when to open the door, when to keep it closed, and when to lead you down a completely different path. That's when real faith matures. Not when everything happens fast, but when you can say, even if I don't see it yet, I trust that God's timing is perfect. When God's timing comes, it doesn't come to fix one area, it touches everything. It heals old wounds, restores broken relationships, opens new opportunities, and replaces years of struggle with moments of divine acceleration. You'll see your life shift in ways that words can't describe. People will wonder how it all happened so quickly, but you'll know the truth. It wasn't quick. It was on time. The years of waiting were simply the roots growing beneath the surface, and now those roots are producing visible fruit. What looked like delay was actually divine investment. There is something indescribable about standing in the manifestation of what you once only prayed for. It humbles you. It silences every complaint. It fills your heart with awe so deep that all you can do is whisper, God, you did this. You'll cry not because of the weight of your pain, but because of the beauty of His faithfulness. The very moments that once broke you will become the proof that God never abandoned you. His timing will reveal that even the detours were part of the destination. He led you through what you didn't understand so that when you reach this place, your gratitude would be pure, your faith would be unshakable, and your heart would belong entirely to Him. And when others see your transformation, they will know it was not luck, not coincidence, not chance. It was God. His signature will be all over your story. The way the right people appear, the way the pieces fall into place, the way the impossible suddenly becomes easy. It will all point back to Him. You won't need to convince anyone of His power. Your life will testify on its own. The same people who once pitied you will see the evidence of divine favor shining upon your path. And you will stand there, tears streaming down your face, realizing that everything you went through was worth it. God's timing doesn't just bring blessings, it brings understanding. It teaches you that control is an illusion, that rushing achieves nothing, and that peace only comes when you surrender the clock to the one who created time itself. You start living differently. You stop chasing what isn't meant for you and start waiting for what is. You no longer beg for things to happen. You prepare for them because you know that when God decides it's your time, everything will align with ease. You don't have to force it. You just have to stay faithful until it comes. And oh, when it comes, it will feel like everything you ever prayed for is arriving all at once. The same hands that once trembled in prayer will now rise in thanksgiving. The same eyes that once searched for signs will now see undeniable evidence of God's work. The same heart that once questioned will now overflow with gratitude. And you will cry, not from weakness, but from the overwhelming awareness that God's plan was greater, His wisdom deeper, and His love stronger than you ever realized. When you live long enough to see God's timing unfold, you begin to walk differently. You no longer panic when things slow down. You no longer despair when doors close. You no longer question when people leave because you've learned that everything has a time and a purpose under God's plan. You begin to live with peace instead of panic, patience instead of pressure, and trust instead of tension. You learn to say, if it hasn't happened yet, it's because God is still preparing something greater. There's something holy about the tears that fall when you finally understand divine timing. They aren't ordinary tears. They carry worship, surrender, and revelation. They carry the understanding that God never failed you, even when you didn't see the reason. They carry the realization that every no protected you, every delay prepared you, and every silence strengthened you. They carry the peace of knowing that you are exactly where you are meant to be at the exact moment you are meant to be there. God's timing is not just about events. It's about alignment. It's when your heart, your mind, your surroundings, and your destiny all synchronize under His command. When that happens, you don't have to chase anything. What belongs to you begins to flow towards you naturally. The right people find you. The right opportunities seek you. The right doors open before you. Because when God says now, the universe responds. Everything obeys the command of its Creator. When you walk with God, you begin to understand that His silence does not mean absence. It means preparation. Silence is often the space where God works most deeply in your spirit. It's in that quiet, invisible process that He strengthens your faith, removes hidden fears, and refines your heart. The silence is not punishment, it's surgery. God is cutting away the weakness that cannot walk into your next season. He is reshaping your inner being so that when He elevates you, nothing will shake you. Many people mistake God's silence for rejection, but those who are spiritually awake understand that silence is often the language of creation. Remember, before light came, there was silence. Before life began, there was stillness. God does His greatest work when everything seems still. When it feels like nothing is moving, you may think nothing is happening, but under the surface, He is preparing your breakthrough with divine precision. Do not despise the still seasons. That's where faith is truly proven. Anyone can trust God when the doors open, but real faith is shown when the door's locked, the light is dim, and the only thing you have left is belief. That's when you discover whether your trust is built on blessings or on God Himself. When you can still praise Him in the dark, still thank Him in uncertainty, still walk with Him when you can't see the road, that's when you rise to a new level of spiritual maturity. There comes a time in your journey when God hides you, not to punish you, but to protect you. He hides you until it's safe to be seen. He hides your gifts until the right audience appears. He hides your value until the wrong people are out of your circle, because not everyone can handle what God placed within you. Some would misuse it, others would destroy it, and a few would drain it. So God conceals you for a season to preserve what He plans to reveal at the appointed time. And when that time comes, when God finally unveils what He has been preparing in secret, you will not have to announce yourself. Your results will speak louder than your words. Your growth will testify. Your peace will radiate. Your stability will shock those who thought you would crumble. That is the beauty of divine timing. It turns the hidden into the honored, the rejected into the respected, and the forgotten into the favored. When you trust God completely, you stop chasing validation. You no longer need the approval of people to feel significant. You stop explaining yourself to those who cannot understand your process, because deep down you know this truth. If God is with you, no one's opinion can stop you. The moment you realize that your value is defined by the one who created you, the noise of the world loses its power over you. You stop trying to fit in because you understand you were never made to blend in. You were chosen to stand out for His purpose. Every challenge you face is not meant to destroy you, but to reveal you. God allows certain pressures to form divine strength within you. Just like gold is purified through fire, your character is refined through trials. It's not to break your faith, it's to deepen it. Each hardship carries a hidden lesson. Each disappointment hides a divine redirection. When God removes something He's not taking from you, He's clearing the space for something greater. The key is not to panic when things fall apart. The key is to understand that sometimes God dismantles what you built, not because it was bad, but because it was too small for where He's taking you. You prayed for increase, and sometimes increase begins with breaking. The old version of you cannot walk into the next dimension of your destiny. God has to stretch your faith, expand your patience, and grow your understanding so that you can carry what's coming next. Do not rush the process. If God is making you wait, it's because what He's preparing is worth the wait. Think about it. The longer something takes to form, the more powerful its impact will be. A seed doesn't grow overnight, but when it finally breaks through the soil, it carries the power of everything that was happening underground. The same is true for you. What God is forming in silence will soon rise with unstoppable force. When God finally moves, He does it in a way that leaves no doubt. You won't have to question if it's your time. You'll know the doors that once resisted, you will swing open effortlessly. The path that was blocked will suddenly clear. People who overlooked you will start noticing you. Not because you changed your approach, but because God changed your season. When God breathes on your destiny, everything begins to align according to His plan. And in that moment, you will realize something profound. All the tears, all the waiting, all the confusion, it was never wasted. It was part of your training. God was preparing your heart to handle the weight of His blessing. Because if He had given it to you too soon, you would not have been ready to hold it. Timing is not only about what you want, it's about who you've become. So remain faithful in the in-between. Keep praying when nothing changes. Keep believing when everything seems uncertain. Keep walking when you cannot see the end. Because your faith is not meant to be proven in comfort. It is proven in delay. The moment you decide to trust God fully without conditions is the moment everything begins to shift. You start walking with peace instead of pressure, strength instead of struggle, and confidence instead of fear. And one day when you least expect it, you will wake up and realize you are standing inside the very answer you once cried for. The waiting will make sense. The silence will make sense. The pain will make sense because you will see that God never forgot you. He was aligning everything for your perfect moment. Then you will look back with tears in your eyes and say, if I had known what God was preparing, I would have waited with more peace. And when that moment finally comes, when God's timing collides with your faith, you will not just see change, you will feel it. It will hit your heart with such force that it brings you to tears, because deep down you will realize it was never you making things happen. It was always God moving behind the curtain of your life. Every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every delay that broke your spirit, it was all working together in divine rhythm, bringing you to a place where your soul could truly receive what He had planned all along. You will cry not because of pain this time, but because of overwhelming gratitude. You will cry because you will finally understand that what felt like punishment was actually protection. What felt like a setback was preparation. What felt like abandonment was God's way of saying, I was building you for something greater. The tears you shed in private will become tears of victory. The silence that once scared you will become your testimony of how God worked when you couldn't see a way. There will come a day, and it is not far from now, when you will stand in awe and whisper, now I see why it had to happen this way. The same people who doubted you will witness the glory of what God has done. The same circumstances that broke you will bow to the power of what God has rebuilt within you. When God's timing unfolds, no force on earth can delay it. No enemy can block it, and no human hand can interfere with it. So keep walking by faith, not by sight. Keep trusting even when it hurts. Keep believing even when you don't understand, because God is not finished with you. He's just aligning the final details. Oh, what you thought was the end was only the intermission before the breakthrough. God is about to move in a way that will silence every doubt, heal every wound, and restore every part of your life that was once broken. And when it happens, it will happen so suddenly that you will fall to your knees in awe. You'll cry not out of despair, but out of pure wonder, because you will finally realize that God's plan was greater than your pain. His plan carried more wisdom than your confusion could comprehend, and His timing held more grace than your impatience could endure. Every tear that fell was seen. Every prayer spoken in the dark reached His ears. Every silent moment of waiting was written in heaven's record. And now the appointed hour draws near. The moment when God transforms your pain into power, your patience into triumph, and your story into strength. So stay steadfast. Don't surrender now. The delay was never denial. The silence was never rejection. The waiting was never wasted. God is preparing to move. And when He does, your eyes will fill with tears of joy, tears of wonder, tears that whisper, now I see, Lord. This is why you made me wait. For when God's timing comes, it comes in power. It comes with purpose. And it comes perfectly on time. There comes a point in every heart's journey when loneliness begins to speak louder than the world around you. You find yourself lying awake, staring into the dark, whispering to God, when will it be my time? You watch others walking side by side, smiling, building dreams together, while you keep moving forward alone, wondering if love somehow missed your path. But hear me, when God is the author of your story, nothing arrives too late. When He shapes your destiny, even the waiting carries purpose. And when God reveals the one He's chosen for you, it happens in a way no human effort could ever design. God never joins two hearts by chance. He moves heaven itself to align their steps. He reorders time, redirects circumstances, and even transforms pain. Yes, pain to refine both hearts for a love that will glorify His name. God will never send your soulmate into your life when you are clinging to desperation. He does it when you are ready, because